Hey, what's going on, you guys? Sitting here in the 2026, I've received a lot of emails and some comments on my videos asking about what the Lone Mountain process was like for me. So I went through the process as a motor carrier. I wasn't buying the truck and then taking it somewhere else. And I had a trade-in, so I've seen some videos on that, but I want to give just an informational video. I'll probably do two videos. I'll do this one about the actual, just the process, and then I'll make a second video on why I chose Lone Mountain. By the way, buy a truck, get a t-shirt. But you know what? I'm gonna just kind of go very basic, very detailed. This is all about what I went through to get my truck through Lone Mountain. And the first thing you have to do is figure out if this is something you're interested in and see if they might have a truck. Now, you do that and you go on their website, lonemountaintruck.com, and start looking through their inventory. Their inventory changes all the time. They have used trucks, new trucks. You find a truck that you're interested in, and you hit the apply button. The application is very straightforward. It's very simple. It's very easy to understand. There's no trick questions. And once you hit submit on that, you're done for that day, because they're going to take that application, just like they did mine. They review it, and the next day I received a phone call. And unlike a lot of places, this was about a 15-minute phone call that you need to expect. And this is where they're going through all the application, getting all the basic details, making sure you've got all your information in there correctly, phone numbers, emails, what you're trying to do. And they ask questions about, where are you taking the truck? What are you doing with it? Again, mine, I'm buying the truck for my company. They said, okay, they're going to do the review, for the credit review, and they will let me know. Now, people say, or I've heard the comment, there's no credit involved in Lone Mountain. And that's true, and it isn't. They are going to run your credit. I think they heard them say numerous times they do one hard pull, because while every person is not a credit score, your credit matters. I mean, they need to check and make sure you're not in the middle of bankruptcy, or you're behind on a bunch of payments, or, they need to look and see what they're getting themselves into, because you're going into business. This is not a walk-away lease. This is not a, well, if it didn't work out, just bring us the truck back. You're buying a truck. So the very first thing was to get that application done, and they went to send it on to review. Once they have that reviewed and they've accepted, all the information's good, they go through what they need from you, and then you will get a follow-up email from them. Again, you've not spoken to a salesperson yet. This is all the initial setup. And so they say, okay, before we can complete your file, they send you an email of stuff that you need. CDL, Social Security card. They need to see your bank account info for 3 months. Now, again, that's just like your credit. They're not saying we have to see $15,000 a month, but they want to see, that you don't have a bunch of negative balances and there's not overdraft fees and all that kind of stuff, that you can keep up with a checking account. Because guess what? That's where your payment comes from, is out of the checking account. And they can't take a chance on there not being money on there when they need it. So I had to get a bank statement from my bank now, because I own my business. I had to go get a form from my bank. It was very quick, very painless, proving that Kev was on that account. And then it was, like I said, it was references, all basic documentation that, like I said, that you are who you say you are, and they have everything, and you send that into them. All right, so once you send all that information into them, your application from your side is complete. They have all the documentation they've asked for. Y'all discussed down payment. That's what they'll see the bank statements for. We'll get to that in the next statement. But you get down there, they have all the paperwork they need. You're waiting on their credit review. It can take a couple of days. It can take a day. It just depends on how quickly you get the stuff into them. They have to verify your references, because they have to, again, they're selling you a truck. They want to make sure they're going to get paid. But after mine took, I would say, about a week, my stuff was ready to go. We were finally ready to talk to a salesperson. Now, this is where I take the step. If y'all remember, I had a 2020 red Peterbilt 579. And so I wanted to trade that truck in. And so what I had to do was I had to take multiple pictures of the inside, pictures of the outside, pictures of the odometer, pictures of the VIN, show them the truck. The way that works, and then you send that in, and it goes into their trade department. Mine took, again, about 24 hours, and then I got a trade offer. Now, what Lone Mountain didn't know in my situation was, one, I had already submitted a trade offer from a dealership, and also, I have contacts in this community, and I reached out to a guy and was speaking to him who sells used trucks. And he was saying that a 2020 Peterbilt, 5-year-old truck, my truck had about 600,000 miles. He said $23,000 to $25,000 is what you're going to expect as an honest trade number. The dealership had given me $25,000 for my trade. Lone Mountain sent me my trade offer, and it was $25,000. So they are on par with the real industry and the real numbers that I got from my inside source. So I was expecting 25,000 and I got 25,000. Now, that is an initial offer. You need to understand that that is not written in gold. This is what we believe based on the information you provided and the pictures you sent. This is what we think your truck is worth. So I had been on a run. I had my financing approved. I had my thing. I was ready to head to the dealership. And when I was ready to head to the dealership, I had delivered a load in St. Louis. I was driving up to Carter Lake, and I got a check engine light on my truck. Now, I have the ELD that tells me what it is, and I look at the code, and it's a knock sensor. And knock sensors go out all the time. And I was trying to get there to get my truck. And this is where I think just the fairness of Lone Mountain came through, was I called Lone Mountain. I called my salesperson, and I said, look, I was driving to you, the check engine light came on. I had already called Peterbilt, and there was a Peterbilt in St. Louis, oddly enough the one where I had bought my truck, and they had the knock sensor, and it was $900, and then I would have had to change it, and then I got a $200 back, so it was about a $700 part out here on the road. I didn't have time to order it and send all that because I was on my way to get my truck. So I said, what are y'all going to do to my trade? And they said, well, we need to update your trade anyway because it had been a while. What is your trade? And so I gave them the miles. When I had originally sent it to them, it had about 587,000. Now it had 595,000 and had a knock sensor. And they said, we will give you $23,750. If you take off the $700 for the part, they charged me about $500 for the 7,000 miles. And again, that was the initial estimate. But again, I was fair with those numbers because I was on the road. I didn't want to try and get $700 more in trade by paying a $700 part. Let's just get to Carter Lake. And I got there, and while you're doing your paperwork, they're going to inspect your truck. And I don't mean like 5 minutes. I went through, I think it was 2.5 hours for my trade inspection. And so they kept asking me, do you want to move your stuff? Do you want to move your stuff over, get the new truck? I was like, I'm not doing anything until we get this trade estimate because I just knew I was going to get the bait and switch. And so after about 2.5 hours, they said, we got your trade estimate in. The shop said how good your truck looked, because I did clean my truck, because believe it or not, that matters. And my trade offer was $23,750. So they were true to their word. They gave me exactly what they said they were going to give me. And in my situation with my trade, if you have a trade, it was worth $23,750. I didn't owe that much on it. My truck was about paid off. So they took the $23,750 minus what I owed, and I used that towards my down payment. Now, you have to check with them if they want to cut you a check and buy your truck. But I knew when I was trading it in that I was using my equity because the trade-in or the down payment on this truck was $15,000. Now, I didn't have to pay that because I had equity in my trade, but you can use trade equity towards your down payment. All right, so fast forward to getting to Lone Mountain. Like I said, I got there about 9 o'clock in the morning because I knew I had the trade allowance. If you don't have a trade and you're just flying in there, it's right by the airport, and rent a car, Uber, however you choose to get to Lone Mountain. If you don't have a trade, the process is a whole lot easier. But again, I had the trade. So we went through there, we walked out there, they gave me the keys. I came out, I went and did an inspection on my truck. We waited the 2.5 hours, had some lunch, waiting on the trade appraisal. As soon as the trade appraisal was done, and I was acceptable to the terms, we were off to the races. You spend the next probably 30, 45 minutes going over all the paperwork. You have to go over and they have to explain again, you're buying the truck, On used trucks, they have warranties. This is a new truck. It has the factory warranty. I had to sign about not being in California. It's all paperwork. And I would say the paperwork takes about an hour and a half. So if you didn't have a trade and you were just showing up, factor 2.5 hours probably, I would guess, to get everything and then get your new truck set up. And that's what I did. I signed the truck. Now, I will say on this, it is very simple. It is 60 months. It is a set payment. And I'll go into this for you real quick because I think it's worth noting. I bought trucks at dealerships, and buying equipment for a trucking company is not easy because, again, I'm doing it as a motor carrier. So I had to have my own insurance set up before I got there. I had to have all my stuff for licensing. I'm not going to go into the details of that because that varies by state, by company, by all those types of things. So it definitely varies for your situation. But because I wasn't taking it anywhere, I had to have all that paperwork. But within 2.5 hours, by about 2 o'clock that afternoon, I was signed for the truck was mine, and I left it. I actually went and stayed at the hotel, and so I could get up the next morning and go home. So initial thoughts on the experience as a whole. They're very thorough. You're going to have your ducks in a row. This isn't some places that I know or that I've been to where you just sign on the dotted line, here's your keys, have the best of fun. They're going to protect themselves and protect you in a way. That was really noticeable. To the staff, everybody was friendly. There was no thing I ever felt like they were hiding. If I asked a question, I had an answer. I had questions about sales tax. I had questions, just as I said, about the insurance and deductibles and all those types of things. And so they gave you all of that. If you ask for it, they will give it to you and show you the documentation. It was very effective, very quick process. I was thrilled with how easy it was and how respectful everybody was and how nice they were. I think I picked up my truck. I saw 7 other people pick up their trucks. Now, their inventory goes quick, so be ready to act when you're ready to act, but I do know you don't have to, once you get approved, you don't have like 2 weeks. I think you have 60 days once you're approved on a truck to actually get a truck. So maybe something's coming in, you want to wait and see what they have. So starting the process didn't hurt me. I just knew what I want and I just went for it. So that was the process for me, from the initial, hey, here's what I'm looking for, to we're in our truck and out there. It took me a total of about 2 weeks. And like I said, that was partly because I ran a load before I went and picked up my truck and because I had the trade. So your mileage may vary on that. But yeah, I'm pretty happy. And we'll be doing another video here coming up soon on why I chose them. And that's where I'll go into more of the minutia and the details about some of the numbers games that matter for me. I just want to give you a quick overview of the process. So that's why I went to Lone Mountain. Talk to you soon. God bless. Let's get rolling.